Speaking of Happy presents Frankly Speaking with co-hosts Eli Rigatuso, founder and queer transmasculine two-spirit of the Menominee Nation, and the lovely Avalisa Gallo, model, public speaker, makeup fanatic, and outspoken transgender advocate. Together, we are Frankly Speaking.
Oh, my heart is sad. My heart is sad. I mean, I'll live, but my heart is sad because Avalisa is unable to join us tonight. She's dealing with some unexpected circumstances in her life. And you know, that happens. Life happens, as they say. She surely is going to be missed. I miss her input. I love conversing with her. It's one of the reasons why we decided to do this show. So if you do miss her and you would like to send her some love, you can do that in a variety of different ways. You can actually type something in the chat to Avalisa, and we will share that on screen so that when she watches the show later, she can see it. The other thing you can do is you can send Avalisa some love. It is Pride Month, right? She is a Black transgender woman. She lives on the fringes of many different identities. And so toss her a little cash, just, $5, $10, $20 if you got it. At Avalisa Gallo, at Avalisa-Gallo, or Cash App, $Avalisa Gallo. So you can do that to let her know that you are thinking about her and that you send her some love and that you appreciate all the work that she does to help provide us with some amazing guests. And we're going to get to the guests. But first, I wanted to start out because I needed to share a couple of exciting things that are happening. Amazing things, right? Amazing, exciting things, right? That you can support. First of all, I received my copies, not just one, but 2 copies. And yes, I paid for both. I received my copies of the memoir of Omaha's own precious Brady Davis, entitled I Have Always Been Me. You can buy your copy right now wherever books are sold or visit her website. She has this really beautiful website, which I'll show you right here if I can get it to come up. Come on up. It's not going to come up. Why does this thing have to work this way? It doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. Okay, so here's what I am going to do, though. I'm going to post this on there. So there is a link to her website, preciousbradydavis.com. The website's under development. But if you click at the bottom where it says pre-order, you will actually be taken to an Amazon page where you can buy a copy of her book for $9.99. I mean, who woulda? And the other cool thing about this is that on the back of this beautiful book, which is like, it's sparkly. It's like a jewel. On the back of the book, every single person who had written a review is a transgender person. Janet Mock. If you don't know who Janet Mock is, Janet Mock read this book and wrote a review. It's a beautiful review. Gina Rochero, Chase Strangio, Teak Milan. If you don't know any of these folks, then you are living on a hilltop somewhere and should come down. Secondly, I'd like to let you know a little bit about another person who you can support during Pride Month. Her name is Ariel O'Donnell. You can pre-order a copy of her 3rd book of poetry. She is also an Omaha native. Ariel is incredibly insightful and inspiring. Her poetry is deeply personal. Amaranthine is a collection of 24 poems and 3 pieces of prose woven together to tell a tale of grief, rage, healing, and rebirth. The collection is a journey through metaphor, the poet's life, and poetry is scripture. Amaranthine is a reclamation of the sacredness that is stolen from us, the rebirth of ourselves after pain, and the holiness of such a pathway. Through emotional, provocative imagery, O'Donnell investigates the interconnected experiences of queerness and transness, the divinity of femininity, and healing from pain and trauma. So head on over to her website, www.ajkodonnell.com and /pre-order and pick up a copy of Amaranthine. And I'm really bummed because I made a special little graphic and I don't understand. Maybe if I go away for a minute, beautiful cover of Amaranthine, or Amaranthine. All right, now we're going to get to what y'all have been waiting for. We're going to get to another episode of Frankly Speaking. If you are joining us for the first time and you're thinking, what is Frankly Speaking? Well, it's exactly that. We have a very frank conversation with other transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming folks, and we talk about the things that we have to experience in our life that we sometimes can't share in the moment. That we, like there's a million things that we wish we could say, but because we, want to temper ourselves just a little bit, we don't. But here we're pulling back the veil, so to speak. And joining me today, we have two beautiful special guests. Robin Cochran is a queer trans woman living in Austin, Texas. She's a small business owner and entertainer. Yes, we will learn more about her small business, and enjoys writing about her transition journey. Ultimately, she strives to help create a more equitable, and conscious world in any small way that she can, whether that's by advocating for trans rights in the workplace, networking with other queer folk, sharing knowledge and resources with those in need, or by raising awareness of the challenges our communities face. Let's give a big round of applause to our first guest, Robin. Robin, thank you so much for joining us. So excited to have you here. And look at you, you look even sassier with that deep lipstick. I mean, we met up a little earlier today so that Robin could experience that, which is the backstage of this lovely StreamYard experience. And you were teasing us with your makeup earlier, and now you look amazing.
Just a little teaser before. Now you get the whole shebang, the whole package.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question before we bring on our second guest. What is it that had you say, oh, heck yes, I would like to frankly speak?
That's a really tough question. I think the best answer is Avalisa asked me to, and I hadn't connected with her in what feels like years. But also, we'd been talking about this very subject that we're going to be talking about today in one of my posts. So it felt like a good introduction to it.
All right. Awesome. Yes, we are going to be talking about passing privilege, right? What some of those things, what for us as trans folks, some of the roadblocks that get in the way of those things, right? So we're going to unpack some things. So thank you very much for saying yes to Avalisa's shout out to say, hey, who wants to come and join us in this conversation? Appreciate meeting you and look forward to hearing more. Our second guest today is Tori Hughes, an openly transgender woman living in the grand old red AF state of Fargo, North Dakota. What? Fargo's one of my favorite movies, by the way. But anyway, she is a singer, model, educator, and advocate, and aspires to use her platform to share her story and the twists and turns of her journey to inspire others to live their authentic lives. Big round of applause for Tori. Tori, thank you so much for joining us. Are you there? You can talk now.
I all of a sudden just appeared. The whole thing's been frozen. So
you're not frozen anymore.
No, I was like, hi. Oh my gosh, sorry.
You know what? It's the challenges of doing this thing in a virtual medium, because you have your internet, I have my internet, Robin has her internet, we have people watching. It does have a tendency to get a little wonky. So I do want to say to all of those who are joining us, we are streaming live on 3 different platforms today. We are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are on Twitch. I don't do quite enough streaming on Twitch to build much of a following. And I have heard from many people that what I really need to do is go out on Twitch and then just literally talk and drink coffee and coconut water and for hours on end. And then that's how you build a following on Twitch. But I got a lot of stuff to do. I don't really have time to just, I don't know. Maybe I'll pull it up one of these days while I'm working and just talk to people while I'm doing my work. So anyway, so Tori, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Robin. What had you say, yes, I would love to come and be on Frankly Speaking?
I was very, very excited to have the opportunity to come on here and just kind of like share and talk with trans brothers and sisters that I've never like had the opportunity to talk to before. I think what we're about to talk to is something that's really important and gets overlooked or taken advantage of it sometimes even. So I'm just very thankful to be able to be a part of that conversation.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today. And like I said, Avalisa wasn't able to join us, and I have been sworn to secrecy as to why. And so I'm not going to tell the details. But like I said, shoot off a tip to Avalisa and thank her for rounding up this great group of guests for us. So I'm just going to jump right into this conversation because as your promos both shared, it really resonated with you. First of all, about passing and passing privilege. Can you share with me a little bit, and whoever wants to take this first, can you share with me a little bit some of the things that you've had to face as a trans woman in a world that honestly is very binary, and the standards of beauty are like, I mean, they're somewhat astronomical in my own humble opinion. Someone who formerly expressed very femininely, I know what it takes to, really take time to put on the hair and the makeup and do the whole thing. So can you share with me a little bit about maybe your views of passing prior to a transition or during and after? Like, was there some differences in the way that you felt about that?
If y'all
Whoever wants
to on this one, I'll take helm because you brought that up. You brought the prior to transitioning, during, and ongoing, and that immediately made me start thinking about the fact that before transitioning, before even having that realization that I could qualify as a trans woman, I was like an out person who identified as genderqueer, and I would not leave the house without like a full face of makeup, looking cute as hell. Like, it was a whole vibe, honestly. I loved the looks, but it took a lot of time to get to that point, and it took a lot of effort out of my day, and it got to be something that I loved but dreaded, because you only have so much energy, right? I would end up not wanting to leave my house unless I had extra energy to do everything else. And it gave me a really intense case of agoraphobia, and that stuck with me for years. And after transitioning, it just became easier because I didn't have to prove to anyone else that I was a woman.
That's a really important thing to bring up. I think that what's really interesting for myself, like I experienced something very similar in just this after coming out as trans and as my transition began. Like, I don't feel like I'm trying to get somewhere, but and that's a little different of a shift because I'm two-spirit. I believe that I'm both and. So my expression is kind of a combination of. And so, but what I started, like I was probably the most outgoing person, loved to be out in crowds, loved to be out with people, was pretty busy. After transition, though, there was that fear of, am I going to be seen for who I say I am, or am I going to have to consistently be sticking up for myself, correcting people about my pronouns, just feeling so uncomfortable that I just chose to stay home instead. It was just easier. So Tori, what do you think? What do you have to say?
Yeah, I was gonna kind of piggyback off what Robin said. It cut in and out again, so I was like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to listen. But mine's kind of different and the same at the same time, if that makes sense. So I am still baby trans, I guess. I came out, it will be a year in June that I came out. So you mentioned prior to transitioning. Prior to transitioning, I very much did the whole thing of had to suppress super hard and was like trying to be super masculine, and that was not the tea at all. But I had to, because I felt like I had to, because that's what was placed on me societally and what people wanted for me. With the idea of passing, I also felt like it was an unattainable goal. Like it felt so hard to get to. Like I had to do all this, and the effort that I was going to have to put in was just such an insurmountable object. But with COVID and having the opportunity to not I didn't have to be in the public eye, so to speak. So I had time to develop and work on makeup, work on all the stuff that I needed to get to be able to just present in public, just go out of the house. Exactly what Robin was saying. Like I wasn't comfortable leaving the house ever. And so it took a lot of work to get to where I was. And I do feel personally, I'm in a spot where in my state of North Dakota, I am able to have the opportunity to pass, I guess. But I felt like it was a very unattainable goal for a long time. And unfortunately, I think that's a problem with a lot of brothers and sisters who haven't transitioned or are afraid to transition. It just seems like it's impossible. And like you mentioned in my bio that I didn't really hear, but I remember saying it. That's kind of my goal, is to, share that with people. Like you can do it. It's absolutely possible. It may seem so hard, but you can do it.
And I think that, I kind of wonder sometimes that for folks who are trans women and are binary trans women, the impacts of those things can be so different than someone who identifies as non-binary and expresses their gender fluidly. And I think it's really important to understand and also honor those things. Like I went through a long period of like, do I really want to pass? Does it really matter to me? I had really short hair and I was doing the hormone dance and all of those things. But I was like, do I really need to have a full face of hair to have someone gender me properly?
Yeah.
And what is it that could shift maybe just in the world in general to make it easier for trans folks who are all across the spectrum, without dismissing anyone's personal choice for how they want to express their gender?
Yeah,
What do you think?
Sorry, I was just kind of like thinking of what you're saying. What you were saying about everybody is really different. And I think it really does come down to who you are and like how you identify and preference, I guess. Because I will say that I am a very, very binary trans woman. Like I have friends that are gender fluid. I have friends that are trans femme, trans masc, like you were saying, all on the spectrum. But for me, prior to transitioning, which seemed impossible, but now that I feel like I'm able to, passing was something that was very crucial to me being able to just exist, just because of how I have that very, very binary preference, I guess.
To feel comfortable in your own skin, but also to feel safe. I mean, the truth of the matter is we live in a very volatile world that is, if you do not show up full face and, to the nines, I'm sure that you are going to be on the receiving end of a lot of vilification and hurtful comments.
Yeah.
We just know that to be true. I mean, black and brown trans women are being murdered at the highest rates across the nation. That doesn't mean that trans women who are white don't experience the same vilification and hate when they're going out in the world. Let's just talk about dating. I could just drop that little bomb in there. How's that going? How's dating going? Like, right? You touched on it a little bit, Robin.
Yeah.
Your promo touched on it. Avalisa's promo just went all the way to the biggest argument that I'm sure you all face, the biggest challenge that you face.
Yeah. Robin, you want to take this?
Yeah, absolutely. Even though it's funny that you singled me out for this one, because I don't actually date all that often anymore. I am poly and I have several partners, but I think that also means that I only have so much time. But I do love meeting new people and connecting with them, but I'm also, intersecting with these things. I'm demisexual, and I just don't really have an interest in getting on dating apps and dealing with the harassment that trans women face there just to potentially meet someone that I could have a connection with. It tends to be more of catching feelings for friends. So we all have our approaches. It tends to be safer that way.
Well, absolutely. And as one of my therapists shared with me at one point, it's like, Eli, you have to choose what is safe for you.
Yeah.
And it's not about whether or not anyone else is comfortable. And then when I think about it that way, I spent 50 years expressing in a way that supposedly made everyone else comfortable. And while I died inside. So there were a couple of things that you tossed out there that I understand, but I was wondering if you'd be able to elaborate or willing to elaborate a little bit around being poly and about being demisexual, just for those folks who might be watching who don't understand those terms.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of being polyamorous, excuse me, had to clear my throat there for this. To save time as I'm figuring out what I'm going to say. But no, for being polyamorous, I definitely, I don't know, there's not a lot to say that would be universal in the polyamorous experience. But in a general sense, the way I experience polyamory is, experiencing a secondary attraction, in this case, an attraction to a person's personality, building that emotional connection, and even a sexual attraction after those two things are met. And we'll go into that a little bit later on the demisexuality. But I'm able to do that with multiple people at once and maintaining these relationships simultaneously. And polyamory, as opposed to monogamy, while both of them take a lot of work, going from a monogamous relationship into a polyamorous triad was a huge challenge, just in terms of time delegation. And you'll see jokes about people using Google Calendars for that. But yeah, polyamory, just being attracted to and pursuing love with multiple people at the same time, and negotiating the boundaries of when it's okay to do so with your partners is also big. As far as being demisexual, I touched on it earlier. I don't really experience a sexual attraction to anyone that I don't already know or have a connection with. I can see someone out there and see like, oh yeah, that person is aesthetically appealing. And that just auto corrects in my brain to, yeah, that person's attractive, like that person's hot. But it's not like I'm feeling anything from that. I won't start feeling anything until we build that connection, that secondary attraction in turn, well, as opposed to the primary attraction level, which is, visual and the senses. Demisexuality is where that is, and it's on that asexual spectrum.
I think that's the best I've heard someone explain it. And it even has me thinking, if I think about it, it's hard to explain. Like, we were playing a game at a party once, and then it's the game of who are your hall passes. So if you're in a relationship with someone, say a monogamous relationship, because you believe in monogamy, but if you're in a monogamous relationship, if you were to run into this person, and typically it's usually someone who's famous or an actor or something, that you would have a hall pass from your significant other that says, go ahead and you don't have to call me for approval. And I'm like sitting here thinking to myself, I was like, there are some folks, but it's not like there's that immediate like, ooh, I want to have sex with that person. Like, I might want to have coffee and have a lengthy conversation, and that sounds exciting. And that might be all the hall pass ends up being. And then as I'm having that conversation, maybe there would be more of an attraction. But, for example, I love Mariska Hargitay from Law and Order SVU, but I'd have to have a conversation with her first. Because, I like the character, but I don't know if I'd like the person, right?
Yeah.
So maybe is that kind of what you would say would be more demisexual in a way? It's like you find that person attractive, but you're not sure if there's that like, yeah, I want to kiss your face kind of feeling.
Potentially. I think that a lot of it comes down to how we choose to self-identify with these different factors. Because I know demisexuals that may experience like some level of like physical arousal from looking at people. I myself really can't do that, but I'll never say that I'm the standard for it.
Right.
But just as you were saying, I definitely had some level of a crush on Mariska Hargitay. I would definitely let her take me out to dinner, but wouldn't expect any more than that. That would be my hall pass. Yeah, they can feed me, and they can tell me I look nice, and then maybe we hands.
All right, Tori, are you going to be part of this club, the Mariska Hargitay Club?
I mean, she's attractive.
Don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't mean to put you on the spot if you're not ready to share.
No, I mean, I just don't know. I don't really have much to say about Mariska Hargitay.
Okay.
That rhymes,
well, who would be
for what it's worth?
Who would you don't? You're right. It does. Who would be your hall pass?
Oh my gosh, that's such. I'll be completely honest with you. I am still, like I said, I'm very young in my transition, and so I am still trying to figure out my sexuality in all of it. I feel like I'm like talking more about like my transition rather than the idea of passing.
No. You know what? This whole show, I just want to be clear. We're just having frank conversation, and we just go down the road, and wherever it takes us is fine. So we don't have to focus on passing. We don't have to focus on one thing. You could even totally pivot, make the whole conversation shift in a different direction, and say, well, here's what I really want to talk about, and we'll go there too. So don't even worry about that. This is why we kind of leave these promos to just more of a, like, what are some of the things that bother us as trans people as we walk through our lives, and then being able to share about those things. So what do you term a baby trans? Like, what is your is it just because it's only been a year? Like, and I get it, because at one point I felt like I was too, and I felt like I had so much to learn. So, you know, where how does that share that more about that?
Sure. Well, frankly speaking, I consider baby trans because I'm literally coming up on 2 years on like physically transitioning with hormones and everything. 1 year being public, as we were discussing how I hadn't felt public or comfortable being able to pass enough. So I just didn't. I just secretly, you know, transitioned for a year medically. So that's why I call myself a baby. And more the fact that is I haven't had the opportunity to really go out because of COVID. Like I stayed, it was dual. It provided an opportunity for me to practice and like develop what it would be like going out and stuff like that. But then I also didn't get to put any of that into motion because of COVID. So it's only now that I'm actually been able to go out and do it. So I'm still learning a lot. And so that's why I call myself baby trans, is that I really still don't know a lot, and I'm just a sponge for a lot of this. And where I grew up, I didn't have like a lot of LGBTQIA plus influences like at all. And my background is very anti my LGBTQIA plus and bigoted and stuff like that. So I had a giant journey. I had to just get to where I am. And so now I'm starting to put the pieces together, essentially, of, you know, who I am and my sexuality and stuff like that. So I call myself a baby trans in that way, because I'm still new, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and I can appreciate that. I like the way that you explain that. Do you have supportive people in your life, and when it comes to your transition and your expression of your gender?
Now, yes. I am very fortunate and proud to say that I do have pretty much the full support of my family, my friends, mostly, yes. My longest lasting relationship with my best friend I lost when I came out and transitioned. So that was a big hit, rather than, you know, it was one person, but it meant a lot. Because I've always had friends in quality, not quantity. I've never really had a lot of friends, so to speak. But yeah, I am very fortunate to say that I have been able to keep my job, been able to keep relationships, and haven't really experienced a lot of negativity. So I am very fortunate to say that.
I think, well, that's awesome. I love hearing stories where people are getting the support that they need, because it's hard enough, you know, and you actually just kind of put a little bit of a blessing on COVID, because what a blessing it is for you to be able to have that time to really kind of be with and learn. And because that's what I did the first year that I, you know, even the year before I came out as trans. I mean, I was consuming, you know, documentaries and reading books and all of these things, because I was trying to figure out where I fit. And when I finally took the leap, it was after watching a 2020 interview, whose name will not cross these lips, because she's not a good example of someone who,
what you're putting down.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I just can't anymore, right?
Woo.
But you know, the piece of it is like, if you think about it, you know, there were very few positive influences just in the world in general. And you know, I don't know if you've watched the documentary Disclosures that was recently done. But, you know, even in, you know, cartoons, movies, TV shows, you know, the trans folks are the ones who are the butt of the joke, or dying, or the sick person who's doing terrible things to people. And, if that's the messages that are consistently being sent out there, then what is the world to think, right? And there's so much to unpack with it, that this is another reason why we decided to do Frankly Speaking, because there is so much involved, the complexity of it. It's not just about saying, okay, fine, Eli, you're a man, whatever. Can you please stop talking about it? No, I can't. And I won't. Because frankly speaking, your dismissiveness doesn't work for me.
Yeah. So, doesn't help anybody. Being dismissive is not it doesn't equal acceptance, it's not the same thing. You're dismissing someone's, it's fine. But, if there's a if there's a qualifier with the word but, or we don't want to hear it, that's not equaling acceptance at all.
No, not at all. So tell me, what's one burning thing that if you could say it to someone, you don't have to say who they are, but what is the one thing that you get a lot as a trans person that is so frustrating?
Yes.
Go, Tori.
Okay. Go. It was in my promo. It was literally in my promo, but I will be in talking to guys, and like Robin mentioned, she doesn't go on dating apps. Good. I wish I could not. I'm still trying to figure it all out. So I'm on the dating apps, and I'll have nice conversations with guys, and then we'll go really nice places, and I'll feel hopeful, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then the idea or the comment, oh, you're trans? I would have never guessed. And gone. Why? Literally, we were talking. Why does it matter? Literally, why does it matter? Oh my gosh. When you said burning question, that's my question. Why does it matter? We were having nice conversations. We were laughing together. We did video chats, for crying out loud. Like, why does it matter?
Yeah. I really love, you brought a really good point in your promo in regard to but you're so beautiful. And you're like, well, what? Trans people aren't beautiful? Like, we're all beautiful.
Yeah.
What's your problem? Of course I'm beautiful.
Yes.
Boy, bye.
Bye. Exactly. Oh my gosh. It may be a place with it. I mean, I think it's true wherever you are, but especially where I am, like trying to date in this town and this state, that's harder. But I mean, I feel like it's the same anywhere that's like really red, I don't know. That's my 2 cents on the act.
Well, other trans female friends that I have will also share about that experience. Especially those who date men, because there's so much that people, even in general, have collapsed around sexual orientation and gender and identity and sex. It's like there's all this stuff that they have collapsed, and so they run, because it's like, oh my God, how is this going to work? Well, it's going to work because you're going to open your mind and stop being a jackhole.
Yes, not the jackhole.
or the Jill hole. Whichever. Robin, what do you got to say? Robin, you look like you're about ready to burst back there. You're like, okay, I am gonna.
Y'all just talked about like the Jill hole, and that reminded me of the term jilling off. I don't know if that ever took off, but I remember trans women, like back when I first started transitioning, referring that to the way they would masturbate. Instead of jacking off, it was jilling off. And I'm just feeling, oh my God. Just a blast from the past.
The things you learn on Frankly Speaking. Yeah.
The things you learn.
So Robin, tell us, what would, in your experience, what would have made your coming out and your transitioning path smoother? What is it that you would want the folks who are maybe cisgender, who are tuning in, to know about about what it is and what it takes and what that, because, people ask me all the time, I'm an ally. How can I support? And I'm like, do you have an hour or 2 or 3 or 4? Because there's a lot that you could be doing that you're not doing. So what would you say? What would you say? No.
Well, what I would say in that situation to, cisgender folks who are watching is, first and foremost, y'all really got to listen to the trans people in your lives. And secondly, if you don't have any trans people in your lives, that might be a problem. Like, that might be the problem there. If you don't know anyone that's transgender, if you're just viewing it as some sort of, God, what's a good word for it? As some abstract concept, that's when I feel most cis people tend to get stuck in this polarizing idea of what a trans person is. And I'll use an example of like trans women, because that's what that's what I am. I'm a binary trans woman. And our presentations can vary wildly, as you can see between me and Tori. Like, we're both binary. We're both women. Yet we look completely different. So I feel a lot of cis people will get stuck in this idea of, a trans woman will either look like a man in a dress, that old trope. That's what we grew up with. I'm 32. At least that's what I grew up with as the standard for trans representation. Either that or you had Ace Ventura, Pet Detective level of representation. Yeah, exactly. Where it was completely cis passing. Yeah. Used as a joke, but also, that's the trickery trope. We're ancient trickster goddesses.
Yeah. Right.
Just here to fool men with our wily ways. And I'm just here looking back on that thinking, 1, ew, movie's garbage. And 2, holy shit, what hormones is she using? Because I would like a vial.
A vial?
Or I 2 or 3.
Yeah, at least like a handful of whatever concoction she's injecting up to look like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that person was trans, though, really. I think it was a cis actor who was, but I understand what you're saying. But think about that from the perspective of a young person who might be watching that movie and then discovering that, I will never forget watching The Crying Game and how I felt when the person who was the trans character was outed. I mean, my heart broke for her. And, it's like when we think about those kinds of things, our kids are consuming that. They're seeing these things. They're out there. It's not like you can't go see that Ace Ventura movie. It's out there. It's available online. And so, it's one of those things where I'm just like, why is it that people don't, like, they don't have a cognitive enough ability? Like, someone on that movie set didn't go, y'all, this is pretty sick. Like, the fact that we're doing this is really not okay. Right. So, like, when I think, what can allies do? If you're in a position where you work on a movie set and they're doing something really disgusting, you either walk off the set or you stand up and say, we got to change this. Right. So, and I always say that when I do facilitating trainings, I say, if you're not willing to speak up, if someone says jokingly something about a trans person and you're not willing to correct them, or something about race, or something about people who are LGBTQ, if you're not willing to stand up and say something, you're not an ally at all. If you're not willing to risk your own safety to some degree, and I don't know if I don't even believe in safe spaces. So that's a whole nother other conversation. But
and that was the other thing I was going to mention, is that cis allies, for trans folk, you can't just call yourself an ally. It is an earned title. It is based on the effort that you put into it. And one of the biggest roles you have as an ally, regardless of which oppressed group your allyship, is going towards, one of your biggest roles is, well, one of them is to make space, in this case for trans women, for trans men, for non-binary people, for anyone in that trans umbrella, is to make space for them to have room in organizations where there isn't trans representation. Today's one of those days where the thoughts just leave my head as it's leaving my mouth, but at least I got a sentence done that time.
Well, you know what? Ebony is showing you some love. Ebony Staten is showing you some love.
That's one of my girlfriends. I love her so much.
That's all right. We're going to give her, look, we're going to do a little flash of her comments. Ebony, thank you.
I love you, Ebony. I also love you, Tessa. Tessa's my
Do you find it difficult as a trans woman who identifies as queer in having people understand your choices in partners? Do you find difficulty in that? And what are some of the things that people say that you're like, I want to slap you right now? Please don't say that ever again.
I don't know. I think I might hang out with the right people. I didn't mean that as a joke, but I guess it kind of is. But, my family was shocked at first when I started my transition, but they quickly adapted to it. Sorry, I just saw that on my other.
You're getting.
Yeah,
You're getting all kinds of love. Yeah, you are. It's all good. I love it.
So yeah, I have support from my family, my friends from college and high school, at least the ones I kept in touch with. I think a lot of people saw it coming, like when I did eventually transition. And even at the beginning, I took a very no-nonsense approach to coming out. It was like, hey, I'm a woman. Y'all are going to respect that, or I'm blocking you. So I set the tone for how I expect to be treated on the decisions I make pretty early on. No one's ever really said anything about the people that I choose to love and the people that I choose to spend my time with intimately. Not in any sort of negative sense. So I count myself blessed for that.
Yeah, indeed a blessing. I'm happy to hear that you were surrounded by folks who see you and honor you and affirm you. And I can see why. You make it pretty easy. Damn straight, says Sam. Damn straight. Look at that. You just got this whole... Robin's got a whole series of people over here. Hello, look at all these. Robin, love, hearts.
I love all y'all.
Tori, what do you got to say? What are you saying? Come on, talk to us. You got some applause going back there for some of the things that Robin just shared.
Yeah, I was like agreeing as she was saying that. I was just like, yes, oh my gosh, totally. Like, I don't remember exactly what I was doing now. I was just like listening.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know what?
Like, yes. And then the next thing, yes. And then just like, yes.
Yeah. I know. I tell people all the time, I say, trans folks are some of the most extraordinary, brilliant, creative, talented people that I've ever met in my whole life. And I mean, I didn't start to really meet a whole lot of trans people until I was closer to almost 50 years old. I had known a few people on the periphery, but it was like I didn't really fully understand I didn't really fully understand it, but I was also still so closeted to myself.
Yeah.
So look at all this love.
I
Look, Tori!
Yay!
Yay! Tori's got some
Thank you,
love
Sarah.
too.
Love you, Sarah.
There's an XOXO.
Oh my
More.
gosh.
Oh,
Thank
see,
you,
even Ebony. See?
Oh yeah, my panda. I didn't have a plant, but I have a panda.
Right. You said earlier, like, I need a plant. She's like, I need a plant right here. Maybe I'll send you a plant.
Yeah,
You'll have
I don't
to
have a
send me your
plant,
address.
so-
Yep. It looks great.
For the plant.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I like the little flag, though. You have the trans flag going on. That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You know.
So what would you say to the young folks that might be watching? Because I do know that there are younger folks who tune in. I have a lot of parents who actually do follow me. And so, there's some of the younger 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds following along. What would be some advice that you would give to them?
That's big. That's huge, because literally I was one of those people watching stuff like this. So it's so surreal at this very moment to just be like, whoa, it's not, here I am doing it now. So yeah, oh my gosh.
So can you sing a little something for us?
Oh my gosh.
No, go ahead. I totally interrupted you before. You had a thought. Go ahead with your thought. Don't let me derail you.
No, I want to keep it simple and concise, because it's easily something that we could expound upon and talk about forever. And everyone's different in their own situations, whether they feel like they can transition or they feel like they can't, they're trapped or whatever. For me, it was very much Nike related. Just do it. I felt like I could never, and I felt like I said earlier, it was an unattainable goal. But you gotta do what's right for you. And I feel like myself and countless people that I've come in contact with, people are always looking for the validation of they are this. They want someone to say they are trans or they are this. And it's like, no, that is not anyone's job but your own. That is literally your own thought. It's all up to you. No one can tell you. And very much what Robin was saying earlier, there is no mold that makes a trans woman a trans woman. You don't have to fit this mold, or a trans man. I'm just speaking from my own experience as a trans woman. There's no boxes that you have to check off. There's no mold you have to fit. Literally, it is personal. It's all up to you. And so my advice is to literally
just drop out of the community.
We're never going to hear that advice.
Oh, wait, she's back. Yes. Finish your statement. We lost you for a moment.
Oh no, where'd you lose me? Shoot.
You just jumped away. You just dropped out, and then boom, you were back again.
Oh no.
You left on, my advice is literally to...
My advice is literally, and as cliche as it sounds, to follow your heart and just do it. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one that has the feelings that you're feeling. And you're the only one that can do anything about it. And yeah, it's scary as hell. Literally the scariest thing ever. But it can also be the most rewarding. And I hope that for everyone. And I hope that you, whoever's listening, if you are, love yourself enough to know that you can do this, or you have it within you to take these steps to follow your heart. Basically follow your heart and just do it. There it is. That's my conciseness.
I love that, Marcy. When you popped off, she's like, cliffhanger.
No. Oh no, what did I do?
Robin, what do you have to say to our young folks watching?
Yeah, well, I'll start off with something that would have cracked my eggshell like that. Something I read much later in life, which is turns out wanting to be a girl is a symptom of being a girl. But to expand on that and to actually give a better answer is, don't try to view a transition as, well, maybe don't try, but you do not have to shoot for a certain goal. You don't have to look a certain way in order to be trans, in order to be respected, in order to be understood and accepted by society. When you're trans, and no one else can take that from you. So if you're afraid of starting your journey, like I was, because I was afraid that I would never be a beautiful woman, and we all know that's not the case. I managed to hit that pretty well, a little bit of self-aggrandizing there. If you're afraid that you won't be a beautiful woman or a handsome man or whatever you're shooting for, I would like to tell you that every day that you're transitioning is going to feel like you're getting closer and closer to loving yourself, even if you're not quite there yet. Every day will get you further and further along that journey, and it will feel amazing every step of the way. Now, there are going to be some rough days, but you'd experience those rough days even harder if you don't take this chance. So one day you'll be along this journey and you'll think to yourself, this feels right. And that's when you'll know that your transition is, over. Or at least that's the way I understand it. Because it's never really over. It's still a journey. It's just a journey in growth.
I love it.
It feels natural. Like, I totally agree with that. It, like I mentioned, I was very closeted, and then because of COVID, I was able to practice. I hate using the word practice because it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, I was trying to just like fit into society and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like when it feels normal, when you're able to just slip into it like nothing. It's like, you did the thing. You transition, like you said, it's not necessarily over, but you did something about it, and you love yourself better because of it. I love the way you put that. One day or every day is a closer day to loving yourself, even on the extremely dysphoric days. At least you've made an effort and you are doing things to get to where you want to be, not necessarily the end goal, whatever people want for you, but what you want. So yes, I love that. I totally agree.
And that's the thing. It's like, who gets to say whether or not Tori is beautiful or whether or not Robin is beautiful, and whose say really matters? My say doesn't matter about whether or not either of you is beautiful. Just like your say whether or not I'm handsome is not what's centered. What I need to center, and look, it took me a long time to get there. I needed to center when I could look in the mirror and say, damn, you're handsome. Look at you. You're handsome. And there are still days when I don't feel that, because there are just some days that I don't. And I get it. But it's like, who gets to say what is beautiful? There are days when I wake up and think, you are beautiful, Eli. It's dismantling some of the ways in which we were raised to think what beauty is, what handsome is, what boys should be like, and what girls should be like. Again, not to dismiss the validity of binary trans people, because they're valid, just like a non-binary trans person is valid. But it's like when we start to deconstruct some of these things in regard to how we've used the binary almost as a weapon on people, right?
Very much so.
When we start to dismantle those things, we all can emerge fully self-expressed. But if we're unwilling to even start there, then I mean, we could be struggling for a long time. So, I mean, y'all, this has been a great conversation. Whether you want to believe it or not, it has been a whole hour. It has
Holy
been.
cow! Oh,
Yeah,
sure. Right in the
I
corner.
was just thinking that it's like I could keep talking about this for another hour at least. Like, oh yeah, passing, right?
Right. Because now when you start to think about it, I mean, we can go a little bit longer if you're willing to share a little bit more. If there's anything else that's popped into your brain that you want to share, or something that came to your mind that you feel like you want to put out there. I don't need to go right away. Go ahead, Tori.
I just wanted to go back to what Robin said about the phrase that would have cracked your egg or whatever. I want to go back to that because I felt that in the sense of I had a different phrase that I heard, but it was prior to transitioning. So in a way, I guess it kind of did crack my egg. I remember I was listening to a podcast by trans women, and I was driving down the highway, and at the end of the statement, I had to pull over, and I had a panic attack because I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it was, the name of the episode was So You Think You're Trans, like that kind of idea. And I listened to it because I wanted people to tell me, this is what you fit this, therefore you're trans. You know, it's like an equation kind of thing, which it doesn't have to be, but that's how my mind worked. And what they said is, if you are wondering if you're trans and it's a very prevalent thought in your mind, you're probably trans. And I literally pulled over on the side of the road and had a panic attack because I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, literally, what? And that was it. It was like so clear right there. I was like, because they're like well, they said, and I'm not claiming this, but they said straight cis people don't wonder if they aren't trans as prevalently.
Yeah.
You know?
I was about to say that.
Yeah. So I wanted to tack that on to what you said about the, you know, what was it? If you think you're a girl, you're a girl.
Yeah.
One of the symptoms of being a girl is wanting to be a girl.
Yeah. So very much in that same vein of like, hey, if you're thinking about it, yeah, there you go. If you're thinking about it so much, you probably are. Just saying. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Is there anybody out there watching who has a question? You can just type it into the comments, no matter where you are. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, any of those places, you can type a comment in. We'll be able to see it and we'll be able to answer your questions. But Robin, what else you got for us? What else you want to share?
Well, I want to say, just to get one last thing in about passing, because I feel like I've been preparing my brain for this, but not saying that it's wrong that we didn't get a chance to talk about it, because I've loved this conversation. Yeah, as far as passing goes, we really it needs to be dismantled as a goal or as an expectation. And that's what I really wanted to say, is that as long as each of us are holding each other to the idea of passing, that's when you see a lot of gatekeeping happening in the trans community. Yeah. And it gets really toxic, and it prevents a lot of us from, well, one, even coming out, because like I mentioned before, you'll never really know if you'd be a beautiful, woman or a handsome man if you'd ever look the way you want to. So it's easy to feel like you wouldn't. I saw a question pop up about passing privilege. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I really, that's not something I feel like I deal with much because I wouldn't say I pass, but from what I've heard and from the way I understand it, passing privilege is this idea that trans people who pass have the they have more privileges than trans people who don't, which in a way is true. I don't appreciate when I see people vilified for it, but ultimately passing privilege is 100% linked to how much we value passing. If you want the idea of passing privilege to go away, we need to really get to the bottom of why trans women will not be respected, trans men will not be respected unless they look a certain way. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a bare minimum to earn that respect. And I think passing privilege just kind of piggybacks on that. Mm-hmm. And
there's a certain. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. I didn't hear that last part of what you said.
No, you're fine. I was just saying it's people who can fit that description and therefore aren't subject to the same level of harassment that trans people who don't fit into this idea of cis passing, or rather fit into other people's ideas of cis passing, because that's the key. It's what other people are projecting onto us.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is one of the reasons why I'm sad that Avalisa couldn't join us today, because she has so eloquently stated that she realizes that she does have a certain privilege in regard to passing and in regard to standards of beauty. She is a thin, beautiful, woman who gets looks from everyone. And she has legs for days. I mean, she has all of those. She checks off all of those boxes. What's beautiful about her, though, is that she understands that, and then she uses that to push more education. She uses that to speak up and speak out and make sure, and not everybody's safe to do that. And I mean, she's a Black transgender woman. So, that's a huge risk that she takes. And I used to, when I was hiding as a trans person for many years of my life, I was ultra feminine presenting. I figured if I were as feminine as possible, no one would ever know that how I truly felt about myself was not that. And so, but what it gave me was, I also knew that I was attracted to feminine presenting people. So when I'm out wandering around in the world looking like, a beautiful drag queen, is how I always describe it now. It's probably one of the most beautiful drag queens you've ever met. But I could hide in spaces where people would say things and vilify LGBTQ plus people. And I'd go, oh, wait a minute. You might want to be aware of your audience, because I happen to be someone who is LGBTQ. And then everybody would be like, oh, what? No way. You're too pretty. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I mean, that's just gross, right? Just gross. Here, there's another great question, couple of questions that came across, if y'all don't mind staying a little bit longer. But what are your opinions on surgery, and what should people know? So I'm just going to do a real quick one too on the, for me, I think it's individualistic. It's all about what is right for the person. For myself, I've had top surgery, and that has settled a lot of my dysphoria. And to be honest, I didn't even realize how much I struggled with dysphoria until the girls were gone. Until I had that top surgery. And then I was like, wow, like I really felt like I was inhabiting my body after that. Mm-hmm. And this disconnect was gone. I was now connected. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's so individualistic. And I think that, I'm a big, my body, my choice. I believe in autonomy. I believe that women should have the choice to do what they choose to do with I think everyone should have the choice to do what they choose to do to their bodies and be supported. But which one of the two of you or both of you? I mean, like I said, I don't have anywhere to be right now. So if you want to go another 15, 20 minutes, I'm happy with that. But what do you say? What are your opinions on surgery and what should people know? Robin?
I have a quick thing on it. I'll just say that surgery is great if it's something that you want. If it's something that you don't want, that's also great. Wanting surgery or not wanting it does not make you any more or less of who you are. And regardless of it, I feel all trans-related surgeries should be covered by insurance and shouldn't be written off as cosmetic. Because it's that cosmetic write-off that gets us, that's how they are allowed to deny us this coverage. Because I'm planning on a top surgery, and I still don't know if my insurance is going to cover it yet. I won't know until maybe a month before.
Which is really ridiculous. I mean, the other thing that people don't understand about surgeries and about insurance is that, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare or Aetna, like all of these providers actually do have coverage for trans-related healthcare. If your company doesn't extend that coverage to you, you have no choice. That's another thing I tell allies. You want to be an ally? Why don't you march on down to your office of your director of your HR and ask if they extend healthcare coverage for trans-related medical care. And if they don't, then advocate for that to change. That's how you can be an active ally, right? So what do you think, Tori, about surgery? Let's hear your take in regard to surgery. So what are your opinions and what should people know?
Well, I was just going to talk about the whole how insurance should be for everyone. Actually, it's not cosmetic. Essentially, I wanted to point out the fact that I had the wonderful, blessed opportunity to have my top surgery covered by my insurance. However, everything else that I want to ease dysphoria was considered cosmetic. Everything else. So it said in the print that this list of procedures for male to female is covered, including but not limited to, and then it literally just said breast augmentation. After this whole list, everything is covered but just breast augmentation. That's not all it is. But anyway, surgery is not needed to validate your existence as a trans individual at all. Did I disappear?
No, you're still here. We can hear you. And I agree. I was nodding.
Oh,
did I
your
freeze?
Your screens both went out at the same time. Yeah, both of your screens just disappeared. I was like, what is up with this? Ah!
That's what happened. That's what happened to you when you were talking. And now Robin's frozen with a surprised expression on her face.
Oh my gosh. So like I said, I'm all for people getting surgery. Going into the passing privilege and surgery, I think it's dangerous how surgery is seen as this, like, something you need to get to pass. So they go together kind of very, very well. And some people, unfortunately, will always chase that idea of passing because they need to get this surgery and they just need one more surgery and just need one more surgery to get that. And it's unfortunately very, very common and circulated. I've learned through trans women that I've had the opportunity to meet. Like I see it all the time. And I'm very reflective on how I don't want that to be me, in the sense of it doesn't make me who I am. I am who I am. I don't need surgery to validate my existence as a trans woman.
Agreed. Robin, what else do you have for us? You look like you were ready to say something there.
Sorry about that.
Oh, there's something going on with your internet connection. It is freezing and unfreezing, and
That was me earlier.
yeah. Maybe we've gone too long.
No, never too long. I don't even hear her.
Oh my gosh. I feel like she's saying some really powerful stuff and it's not coming through.
I know. Can't even hear her. Like, where's the audio even?
I don't know. She's not muted. Maybe if I take her out and bring her back. Yeah, see, there's something wrong with her internet connection, I think.
Oh no.
Darn it. Well, listen, you know what? While we wait for her to pop back in here, Ebony asked another really great question. Any moments or memories of favorite pieces of clothing that were helpful in the beginning of your transition? Tori, why don't you go ahead and take that?
Pieces of clothing. Pieces of clothing. I don't know about clothing. I will say.
My phone camera.
Oh.
Can you hear me yet?
Kind of.
You're doing so well.
Hi. Hello.
There
Can you hear me
are.
yet? I don't know if y'all can hear me. Hi.
Hi.
There we
Can
go.
y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. If y'all can hear me, I just want to let you know that my phone battery almost died, and that caused everything to just go out of whack. So, yeah, now y'all get a different view of my room because this is where my charger is. The lighting isn't as good over here, as you can tell.
I like all the Post-it notes on the wall, though.
These are my self-care Post-its.
Yay.
I also enjoy coloring. So.
Yay. So what were you saying before when everything started to go wonky and your battery was dying?
So when I was looking like really emphatic, like I was making a great point, that was me telling you about my battery.
Oh.
And realizing that you couldn't hear a word I was saying. And every time I was getting really emotional. Anyway, thank y'all for your patience. I didn't really have much of a point to make. I was just struggling with technical difficulties.
Okay. Well, how about this? Are there any moments or memories of favorite pieces of clothing or anything else, just moments or memories that were helpful in the beginning of transition?
Yeah, I have a favorite jacket that I've had since 2010, maybe? This is even before I realized I was trans. It's just a jacket that even at the time was too small. I got it from the Hot Topic outlet near where I went to school, and it's falling apart. My girlfriend stitched it back together. It's a comfort item, but it slimmed my figure down. And that was one of the things that made me think, maybe I don't look as like ugly and blocky and all these negative attributes I attributed to like maleness. Yeah, I would say my favorite jacket. I don't have a picture of it right now.
All right. You know, I remember once when I was younger, I had a battle with my mom. a neighbor was getting married, and I wanted to wear a suit like my brother had. He had this crushed blue cobalt suit, like velvet, crushed velvet. And I wanted one just like him. Just like that. I was like, I just want to dress like him. And my mom was like, no, absolutely not. We went to the store and I found a 3-piece maroon suit, pantsuit in the women's section. And I ran up to my mom and I said, here's what I want for the wedding. And she says, I told you no. And I was like, but it was on the women's side of the store. It was on the girls' side of the store. I mean, it's a girl's pantsuit. I mean, it had silk lapels. It couldn't have been more cheesy, but I'll tell you, she finally had to give in and said yes. And I was on cloud 9. I came up with every excuse in the world to be able to wear that suit. To whatever. Am I like, no, it's not a dressy occasion. You don't need to wear your suit. And I just have to laugh. But that was one of the first times when I felt really affirmed in my gender. And that was, probably, what would that have been? 1978, 77, when I was like 13. And, and then I explored more about my gender identity moving forward. But I think there's a t-shirt that I have with the Incredible Hulk on it that says I'm a really big deal. That was the other one. Have you thought of anything, Tori?
Yes. So mine's not necessarily a piece of clothing as it is an accessory that I still literally, that's all I wear. They're hoop earrings. I wear them for everything, and they always have made me way back when I was younger. Even I would take shower curtain rings and use them as hoop earrings. I don't know why. It has just always been what?
Oh, that's precious. I'm sorry.
It's adorable. It's adorable.
Yeah. So it's not a piece of clothing, but it's definitely an accessory, and I'm wearing them right now. It's all I wear. Just, I've always loved it. It's so feminine to me, and I just love the way I look in them. And I've always been into it, and it's just always been validating for me. So always, literally, as far as back as I can remember, finding pictures of myself from way back in middle school.
I can just see you with the little shower curtain rings.
Very 90s. Very 90s.
So,
it was cute.
So sweet, though. So sweet, though. All right. Well, listen, it is now 7:23. I want to thank all of Robin and Tori's fans for sticking with us and asking some really, really, really great questions. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight, for being here, for saying yes to the request to be on Frankly Speaking. And if you think about it in the future and you come up with something that you want to come back and have a conversation about, please be sure to message us and let us know, because we would love to have you back. All right.
Absolutely.
So for those who are still watching, I want to let you know that, again, we will be back in 2 weeks. So we do every other week. We do Frankly Speaking. So the next episode of Frankly Speaking will be happening 2 weeks from now. And if I can pull up the calendar really super quick, I can tell you that will be June 18th will be the next episode of Frankly Speaking. But next week, we are going to have an episode of Speaking of Happy, and that will start promptly at 6 p.m. next week. And I will be interviewing the ACLU Nebraska about some of the work that they do in regard to transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks right here in the state of Nebraska. So again, Robin, Tori, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to toss back up your Venmos. There's Tori's Venmo at Miss Victoria XX, and we have Robin's Venmo. So if you want to shoot them over a little tip, I do want to let you know we do compensate our guests. So we are giving them some money for their time. So thank you so much for being here. You are what makes the show, frankly speaking. So we are going to say good night. I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you so much.